Now, what we've all been waiting for is, what about images? What about JPEGs, PNGs, GIF files, raw data, all that kind of stuff? Well, let's jump into it because it's very important. You want your images showing up right, and you want them to load quickly, so let's jump right in. Image file formats. In all, we're going to talk a lot about images, and a lot of it comes down to pixels. Pixels, yes, let's go into Photoshop. Here's an image right here. And let's get out our Photoshop toolbar and get our magnification tool, and let's zoom in very closely. And what we're looking at here is all of these little squares, and all of these little squares are called pixels, and each pixel is defined by O's and 1's. Each picture, I mean, like if I double click this little color thingy in Photoshop, it opens this color sampler, and here I can drag this thing around and look at these numbers over here going crazy. RGB values, hexadecimal values, CMYK values. Well, and then look at all these colors in here. Woo, look at those numbers go crazy. Well, the human eye can see 16.7 million colors. So some group of geeks defined all of these numeric values for RGB values, hexadecimal values, CMYK values, and so each of these number values equate to one of 16.7 million colors. So when you look at this image, each pixel here has a different numeric value that's going to show us one of 16.7 million colors, and so that's what these colors are all about. So let's cancel out of that, get the little image out of the way. So when they first started using these colors, you have raw data images, and in raw data, each pixel was defined with O's and 1's, and there would be 16 places for O's and 1's. So if you had 00.001100111000, well, that might be purple, one shade of purple. Okay, and because of the length of the code, it took up a lot of file size. So what they did is they came up with a mathematical formula that compressed the raw data code, and that file format is known as the TIFF file format, Tiled Image File Format. That is what was used in print for a long time, the tagged image file format. And if you're going to do print work, newspapers, magazines, stuff like that, they'll ask you for all of your images at 300 dpi in a tagged image file format file. So in Photoshop, if I come in here, or if I go to image and go to image size, right here, I can see resolution. And if you have a nice camera, a nice digital camera, you want to go into the little book that came with the camera, and you want to set it so that your image comes into the camera as a raw data image file format or a TIFF file format. And if you do that, when it comes into Photoshop or whatever your image editing program is, it's going to come in at 300 dpi. That's going to give you lots of pixels, lots of wonderful imagery. But when you put it on the internet, you want to put it in at 72 DPI. Do your research on that, but that's been the rule of thumb for years. And resolution is changing every day. Like your iPads have different resolution capacity than your computer monitors do. And this is changing, especially over the last year and a half. It's gone crazy. So what you would do is you would bring in your 300 DPI image into Photoshop, and then you would come in here and reduce the resolution to 72 DPI, because a 300 DPI image is going to be really huge. It might be 40 meg. You don't want a 40 meg file on the website. It'll take forever to load. So you drop it down to 72 DPI. That reduces file size. But let's go a step further. Let me cancel out of here. Move this image out of the way. So there's your raw data. There's DPI, and there's your tagged image file format. Now, these four file formats, the most popular web file formats, JPEG, sometimes JPG, either way works as a file extension, Joint Photographers Expert Group for JPEG, GIF, Graphic Interchange Format, developed by CompuServe in Columbus, Ohio in 1987. The PNG file format, Portable Network Graphic, developed by Macromedia. And you have the PNG 8 and the PNG 24. The PNG 8 only uses 256 colors, while the PNG 24 uses 16.7 million colors. The JPEG file format uses 16.7 million colors. And all four of these file formats right here are for web. They were specifically made to compress a raw data or TIFF file and make it small enough to put on a website. So let's go in here and let's go into this image and talk about how do we compress this image to make it right for the internet. So let me just come in here and we'll make this image a little bigger. So I use Photoshop. You can use any application that you want to resize your images, but notice I can see that this image is 3,000 pixels wide, 2,000 pixels tall, which is generally speaking way too big for the internet. So what I do is in Photoshop I can go File, Save for Web. File, Save for Web. And once I go File, Save for Web, Photoshop opens this wonderful menu, if it ever cranks up, and it's going to let me change this thing so that I can put it on a website. Because the image is so wide and tall, it's taking a while for us to view it. In the Save for Web dialog box, if I double click this little hand up here, it'll show me the entire image. Now this is experimentation. Here's my original image. Notice it's 22 meg. I would never put that on a website. But as the image stands right now, as a PNG file, it's 7 meg. As a JPEG file, it's like 500K, which is a big reduction. But anyway, let's do a little experiment here. The first thing about the Save for Web dialog box is I can change the width and height of my image. The first thing I would do, I would resize it to the size that I want it on my web page. Let's say I only want to make it 500 pixels. Well, I put in 500, and that makes everything automatically smaller. Notice that brings the original down to like 549K right there. Just reducing the width and height of the image can make big changes. But here I can see the various image options that I have. Let's make it a GIF file. In this box, we make it a GIF, GIF file format. That brings it down to 112K. And notice our color table. The GIF file format only uses 256 colors of the 17.6 million colors the human eye can see. But it's adaptive. And what it's doing is it's looking at this vast image and saying, well, most of the colors are beige and there's some blues in here. So what we're going to do is just mix. We're going to take beige and blues and we're going to do some voodoo so it still looks okay. And you can see it looks okay, but they're only using 256 colors. In this dialog box, I can come up here and decide I'm only going to use maybe 32 colors. And that reduces file size, or maybe I'll just use 64 colors. You know, and so you can play with that to increase or decrease your file size, but that's the GIF file format. Let's come down here to JPEG. I'll come down here to the JPEG file format. It's coming in at 138K, and you can see this is at maximum quality, meaning they're using not too much compression. But if I come down here and click this image, it's a low. I've selected low quality. It's coming in at 8K, which is a big reduction from the 22 meg that we started out with. But let's zoom in and see what's going on here. The more you compress a JPEG, the more that it's using an algorithm to average 8 pixel squares of colors. So here at maximum quality, you can see that we can still see pixels, but here at the low quality JPEG, the pixels, we have 8 by 8 pixel squares and it's averaging them out. And these little squares are called artifacts. So, you know, if it's an important image for your wedding, or, you know, somebody did something and you really want to put a really good picture of them on your website, then you want to bring it in the maximum quality or somewhere in between. If you don't care about it, if it's a picture of your mother-in-law and you don't care, then you bring it in as a low quality JPEG. Also note this option right here, progressive. If I'm going to go up here and select this image, and I'm going to make it a progressive JPEG, and what that means is when you go to a web page, sometimes you'll see the images load from the top down in the page. That's standard. But if you make it a progressive JPEG, it loads the image, it throws a bunch of pixels on the page, and then it starts loading images, loading pixels around those preloaded pixels, so it kind of fades in so that the user doesn't have to wait on seeing something. If we go back to the GIF file format, you'll see the option for interlaced. It's the same content. It's the same concept. Let's take this image back up to 256 colors just for the heck of it. I'll go to interlaced. It increases the file size a bit, but what this does is it fills an empty image spot with lines of colors, and then it goes in and fills in the additional lines of colors until all of the colors come in, giving the viewer something to look at until the entire image is loaded. I always use progressive JPEGs, and I always use interlaced GIFs. So now the good thing about this Photoshop Save for the Web dialog box is once I click Save, it goes somewhere, and the original is still intact at 20 meg giant image, and all I've done is created an extra image to use for the internet. But let's go a step further here. Let's say I'm going to come in here into Photoshop and I'm just going to select, let's say all I want is the girl. So I just select the girl and then I'm going to invert the selection and then I'm going to delete so that nothing is there but the girl, and then I'm going to crop the image so I get just what I want. Maybe I just want to use this as a little bubble. I'll just have this as a little bubble in my website, maybe in the header. So I'm going to save this file, save as, and I'll just call this bubble. It's a PSD, Photoshop document. And now I want to put it on the internet. So I'll go File, Save for Web. And let's double click the hand tool so we can see the entire image. Notice at the top it's a ping 24. And these little gray and white squares are symbolic for transparency. That means that I'll be able to see through this transparency into the web page. So if I have a black background in my web page, all I would see is the circle. All I would see is the circle and the black background in the web page. The Ping24 file format supports transparency. But notice down here the JPEG file format. The JPEG file format does not support transparency, so whenever I want to have an image that involves transparency, I always convert it to a Ping24. Or, let's come down here. I'll select this image, and let's make it a GIF file. Sure, the GIF file format also supports transparency. But let's come over here. I'm going to come over here to this JPEG file, and I'm going to make it a Ping8. The Ping8, similar to a GIF file, only uses 256 total colors. It's averaging colors similar to the way that a GIF file averages colors. Without going really in depth, what's going on here with the GIF and the Ping8 is when you bring it into a web page, there's going to be a little white line all the way around the image. And you know you're a web developer when you take that file with the white line going all the way around your circle and you erase it, put it back on the web page, and it's still there. It's called anti-aliasing. I don't deal with it anymore because if I just make this thing a Ping24, that doesn't happen. Now note that the Ping24, well, let's decrease this because if this is going to be in the header, the width, I'd say the max is going to be like 250 pixels wide, 210 tall. If I do that, then the ping's coming in at 53K. I can definitely live with that. So I'm going to cancel out of here. And there you go. There are your image file formats, your raw data, your DPI. Start bringing your image in your camera as a TIFF file format or a raw data file format. And then when you take it into Photoshop, you're converting it to, if you're going to put it on the internet, then you're going to make it a JPEG, GIF, Ping8 or Ping24 so that it loads rapidly on your website.